Welcome to Lean Agile Management Podcast that helps you boost work efficiency, create culture of high performance, and build teams that thrive. Welcome to the lounge. Today on the show,
we can do a lot more by looking at a portfolio level. The organization that is working on pull-based system, they can have very high degree of predictability on how long it will take for a certain type of work to get done. And many, many years where we've been educated and conditioned to believe that the more we start, the more we will finish. That's not the case. And that takes a lot of undoing.
Our special guest today is Nader Talai. He's a professional IT manager, organizer for the London Limited Web Society, and business agility consultant at Valley Glide. Hi, Nader. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Dimitro. Thanks for the invite.
It's a pleasure to have you. I'm glad you could do this. So to kickstart the conversation, I'd like to ask you one big question, and that is, what is, in your view, the number one most painful struggle or issue in modern management that you see people struggle with consistently?
I think that the challenge is achieving business agility beyond some superficial change and actually looking for outcomes that are meaningful to a business, and as opposed to just implementing a method or a way of working.
Right. So it's going away from the labels and actually getting to the true results, right?
Yeah.
We see that people actually start thinking and discussing it, but not in the exact terms that we use. So it's kind of hard to get to this, make this conversation more feasible and real for the management.
Yes, I think it's very difficult. It's harder for the higher level management because they just believe that what they've done so far is working. That's why they're successful. And it becomes harder and harder for us to sort of convince them. And the way to convince them is through delivery, through action. So you just want to get a small piece and start delivering it and then keep growing that. And that's the challenge. That's the way I've worked. It's not the only way. I know some people who go and try and change, they try and set out to change the whole organization. I don't see many successes. I see very short term, that yes, everybody's saying yes, but actually they are not saying yes. They're just overwhelmed, and they're looking for a way out, and they usually change you or change suppliers because they're not ready for that revolutionary approach to change.
Right. Very often it comes to the personal career success question. Yeah. So people feel very vulnerable and they don't really want to think about it. Well, maybe they don't actually have the environment to feel safe to take such bold experiments because it requires for people to accept that they might not be right, and that's actually okay.
That's exactly it. The fact that we all want certainty, and it's the wrong thing that managers demand from people who report to them. What they should be demanding or encouraging is people to come and say, I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Let me do an experiment. What are my constraints for doing that experiment? Well, I'm going to give you £500,000, or I'm going to give you £5. You can do an experiment with that. Or I'm going to give you 3 days. Come back to me in 3 days and tell me what else you know. And then we can go from there. As opposed to, expecting the higher up you are, the more certain you can say, yeah, I can deliver that. And that's a big challenge.
Yes. Yeah. And do you have an example of a team or organization that you would call truly high agility company?
I have an organization I have an example of an organization that improved their agility from sort of an idea to launch being over 400 days to getting it under 90 days. Are they perfect? No. Do they have a long way to go? Yes. But I mean, that's the thing, the if you like, is forever evolving. A, because you get better, and B, because the market doesn't stand still. Right. So just because you are that much better from what you were, it doesn't mean that you can stop there. So you continually evolve. And that particular organization, yes, I can take you through that setup, if you like. That organization engaged us to look at the IT delivery because, again, the thinking was that projects get delivered very, very slowly. And yes, that was the case. But when you looked at the overall timeline, which is the 404 days, which actually wasn't the first thing we could do, because you have to get engaged in, if you like, the delivery side of things, prove that you can improve things, and then build confidence and credibility within the organization. And then we took a wider system view and looked at the end-to-end. And we realized that, from the 400 days, the IT side was only a subset of it, and not, so the delivery of the project was only a subset of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only by engaging the whole value stream, if you like, the whole workflow to say, okay, you have the workflow at a very high level is that I've got an idea. Then I go to an investment board with a business case. They look at it, you revise it a few times. Eventually you either get approved or you delayed. If you approved it, you wait in a queue of approved project or initiatives. Then those initiatives get assigned to a release. Then a release gets sort of assigned to a project manager, and a project manager will work with teams to deliver it. And it was multiple project managers. You got business change project manager, line of business project managers, and technology business managers.
Right.
And then that whole lot got improved by the factors I mentioned. Yes, of course, the system was inefficient to start with, but it was also suffering from looking at only looking at a part and saying it's only the technology delivery, which is normally not the case.
Okay. Wow. And that sounds like quite an improvement. But how did you get there? Is there any tool or way or specific framework or method approach that you use to do that?
There isn't a single tool or method that I would say, yes, this is the thing you use and you get there. But certainly Kanban is a big influence on the way we work, and I work as well. So Kanban was a lens, putting the Kanban lens on it, looking at the end-to-end workflow, looking at the service delivery, and looking at our flow efficiency, if you like, end-to-end, was a key factor in continually and relentlessly looking at how we improve the delivery for this organization. Mm-hmm. The technical practices based on extreme programming were another factor to sort of improve the development side of it, which actually gave us the credibility and the confidence to then engage the rest of the organization, and visualizing basically that whole timeline and showing where the time is going, and that the technical side of it isn't the major element. So we could improve the project timeline, if you like, the delivery timeline by 100%, but that still be in the 5% of the overall. And that's what made it all happen.
Right. So you've mentioned using visualization and looking at the broader picture. So I guess it's not just visualizing, but going to the portfolio level, right?
Yeah.
So looking at a wider picture, what's happening here. But that alone, I can see how that would help a lot. And we've had another episode on this podcast about visualization and transparency. But I bet that you need to do more than just see the issue. So how would you start dealing with when they want to achieve business agility, not just on team level in a silo, but when they want to look at the larger picture?
Sure. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. I mean, the key problem that we see a lot in organization is that demand is assigned to the teams with a date already. Mm-hmm. And what we can do at a team level at best, using some workflow management, Kanban methods, limiting the WIP, and improving the flow within the team. But the fundamental problem, and if you think of it as a lever, that's a short lever. And if we go at the portfolio, at the organizational level portfolio, that's where we make the most impact. And we need to look at that level through the lens of what is our organizational capability in dealing with these initiatives. How many can we do? What should the blend be in increasing revenue, protecting revenue, reducing cost, managing risk, and discovery side of things? And then sort of, if you like, allocate capacity and limit the flow from that side, and then we get the maximum results for our organization. This is very easy to say, and organizations do understand this, but the problem is that we have a lot of training and many, many years where we've been, if you like, educated and conditioned to believe that the more we start, the more we will finish. And the sooner we start, the sooner we finish. And that takes a lot of, if you like, undoing over a number of days and weeks before we can relearn that that's not the case.
Right. Yeah. And that's quite an obstacle to overcome. But how can we actually approach this? So it is a huge issue. But what you've described sounds like the Kanban pull principle. And you mentioned capacity and allocating our resources. So that's something that people are familiar with on team level. And some people are big fans of limits and others are not so much. But if that's what we're talking about here, how can we scale this to the company level? Because some would object and they would say, oh, isn't this just for small teams? It wouldn't work on my organization, wouldn't work on larger scale. How can we respond to such a claim?
Sure. I mean, yes, we will get that challenge, but reality is that it will work, and it does work. And it's just a question of working, depending on how you're engaged. Sometimes you're engaged at the portfolio level, CEO or chief executive level, and you have the credibility and the confidence, and they will follow through what you say. And sometimes you have to do like this case study I just mentioned, where you gain your credibility through delivery at the team of teams level, multiple teams, but that gives you the credibility to say, well, if we can do this within just the technical delivery, we can do a lot more by looking at the portfolio level and working with the organization at the portfolio level, which we did, and sort of working through how can we limit the number of things we do to be relevant to the market. Because when you work on portfolios where they're trying to look ahead 3, 4, 5 years, it assumes that we can second guess what the market needs and what our customers want. And one of the things that really helped was we had this massive initiative that everybody in the company believed it's going to be the game changer. We did a lot of investment in it, despite our guidance to say, look, can we experiment, put something? He said, no, we have to have the whole thing. And we did. And that was a flop. I mean, it wasn't a total flop, but it didn't, if you looked at return on investment, it was a flop. So that then was another key, if you like, contributing factor to the organization looking at, well, instead of trying to go for one massive thing, let's go for smaller, if you like, bets, and also have these assessed outcomes that we want to flow through our system and limit the number of them we do based on our capability. We know how many things we delivered in a year, so let's not assume that this year is going to be any different than last year. And then once we improve our system of work and we have evidence that we can do more, next year we'll put more through the system. But this year, just run from that. And we didn't get it for a year, but we said, let's try it for a quarter. And we did it for a quarter. And in that quarter, we delivered more. So they just tried it for another quarter and they said, that's good. And then, 3 quarters in a row, first time they said, it's lucky you just had the easy stuff. Second time they said, well, maybe there's something in it. By the time you get 3 quarters going, then it goes beyond luck. And they say, yeah, there must be something in the system of work that you are asking us to adopt.
Right. Yeah. But I guess not everyone would be that lucky to have the right to experiment for 3 quarters. Because at the beginning, somebody has to accept the whole idea of, okay, let's stop doing so many things and let's break things down and make smaller parts and work through them bit by bit. Something we've heard and discussed in this podcast as well is how people are actually afraid to admit that they don't know that nobody can say for certain what's the 100% right direction, because there is no such thing. Because the customer doesn't actually understand what they want until they get it. The producer doesn't actually know how to produce it until it. So how can somebody who is in a position where the organization is not really ready for it yet, and they would like to introduce the idea of business agility and limiting work in progress and limiting initiatives on the company level, are there any arguments or any ways they could suggest such a change? Because I guess it's not something that you can achieve overnight. Just say, okay, let's do this and everyone's on board. So.
No, I agree that you cannot do it overnight and just say, yeah, everybody's on board. Let's flick the switch and from tomorrow we're going to do something different. So again, I would go to Kanban method, evolutionary change, start from where you are, agree what the outcomes are that you want to go for. And of course, that will evolve over time, because what you think you want right now, it will change, but at least have some sort of guidelines to work with. People want certainty. We all want certainty. And we can give certainty in small doses, if you like, but it's very difficult to provide certainty sort of like 12 months, 14 months, 16 months hence. But we like to have that. And the best way we can rewire the system is by continually delivering against expectations that we set. So shorter timelines, shorter iterations, time boxes, deliver value, and then keep going. Even in that case study that I mentioned, initial year was just to get the if you like, credibility and making sure that the technical delivery was reliable, predictable, and of high quality. Once that happened, then we could go and extend the system boundary, if you like.
Mm-hmm. Right. And is this case study available somewhere? Could our listeners go and find it out?
It's not available just yet, but we will be writing it and making it available. There are bits of it that are available on the Value Glide website, but as a whole, it's not. So we will write it and make it available.
Okay, awesome. And then when we're talking about working with portfolio Kanban and setting up the right limits, focusing our attention on the right things, we've discussed some challenges that people would have to overcome, like attitudes of other people who didn't buy into the idea yet, and overall the idea that it's not just a big project but an incremental change. Are there any other challenges that people can expect when they set up on a road of business agility?
Sure. I mean, one of the things we do through evolutionary change is that we want to minimize the resistance to change, because we, if you like, approach change through emotions. We want to limit the negative emotions that we have to change. So everybody and every context will be different. So sometimes most contexts, well, I can say every place we have been in, we find at least one slice that is not just a team, is reasonably big chunk. It could be a department, it could be a division, where the divisional head wants to try a new way, is more approachable and wants to try it. Then we will use that team and that division, if you like, as to create positive peer pressure for the rest of the organization. Mm-hmm. And once you get two of them, three of them, you get to that tipping point where there is enough inertia within the organization where everybody else wants it as well.
Okay. Yeah.
And these teams that I'm talking about, they're typically 1,800 people, 500 people. So they're not like teams of 5 or 7 people. I'm talking about the divisional units within an organization.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like quite a scale. So that immediately beats any arguments about scale. And anyone who's asking, is it possible I'm larger? Well, there you go. It is.
Yeah, the scale is only a question of coordination and synchronization, and there are patterns for doing that.
Oh, could we discuss a little bit? So what kind of patterns do you mean here?
Well, within Kanban, we've got the cadences that allow us to synchronize and coordinate work, if you like. And then there are other frameworks that also do that as well. So if you've got a portfolio to deliver, typically a portfolio is not one product backlog, mm-hmm. But you try and organize your teams so that as much as possible, they're independent of each other. It's not always possible. You will end up with some shared resources or shared teams that deliver to you. But if at all possible, your first line, if you like, the first approach is to make sure that we have a team. And when I'm saying a team is not just 6, 7, 9, I mean a team like a delivery unit, mm-hmm. Which may have many, many teams in it, that is independent and can deliver a product backlog independent of other teams within the organization. That would be your first and second, if you like, approach. Mm-hmm. If those do not work, then you have to create we'll end up with some dependencies where a team can produce some parts and then it has dependencies on other teams. And again, within the Kanban system, we show that as hierarchy of boards, and we have various techniques for synchronizing the work between the two teams, either as, if you like, work items that get split and sort of get consumed, produced by a component team or sub-feature team, and then they come back up and they flow.
And I think we talked about this, but for some, not really very familiar with the topic. It might not be that obvious. So we talked about, you just mentioned flow as well. And we did say that having a focus helps to achieve that. But could we just go back a little bit and expand on actually getting and understanding and establishing that kind of flow? So when we are at the team level and whatever the size and scale of it is, could we just start from there and go up to portfolio and just reiterate how this?
Sure. So you have. So I'm going to split it between the discovery and delivery, because your constraints are different between discovery and delivery. So let's just focus on the delivery for a moment. So we've got ideas that have been gone through proposition, have if you like been refined, and we've got a set of outcomes that we want to deliver. And we believe that these are the right things to deliver because of our user research, customer research, however way we go through our discovery. Whether it's discovery Kanban, whether it's Lean UX, we've got a set of outcomes that we want to shoot for. And within the delivery, we then look at, when we talk about a flow, is about looking at the overall lead time from the moment we start working on the item to the moment that we deliver it. And then the other thing that we look at is the concept of flow efficiency, which is how much of that time is due to us working on it, and how much of that time is to the work item waiting for a service to be delivered, either by us or external team or external supplier. And then the focus of our improvements is on tackling those sources of delay, and then improving the overall flow.
Okay. And we've mentioned pool as a principle, but we have not really gotten into much detail about, well, we did, but once again, if somebody hears this for the first time, how could we just once again quickly explain the pool on team versus higher level?
So again, most organizations work on a push-based system where, a request comes in and you push it to a team and we start working on it because the request has just arrived. So we start working on it. That leads into a lot of work in progress, not a lot of work finishing. A good example of this could be if you think of a motorway, highway, freeway, whatever, or autobahn, wherever you are, you might have a different term for it. If you've got lots of cars in that motorway and utilizing every meter, inch, mile of the tarmac, you have very, very high utilization, and every car has started the journey very, very fast. As soon as they arrive, they start it. But not many cars will get from one junction to the other very quickly. And this is the system of work that we have, with the other disadvantage that actually, because we're working in knowledge work systems, we don't see these cars piling up. People are just juggling plates, so we just switch from one task to the other and to the other. So we start working on it. I've got a bit, I get stuck. Either I need information from somebody who's not available, or I need service from another team. So I said I could put it back, pick the next one up, do a bit, so on and so forth, and just carries on. So we just keep switching tasks, but not many things get finished. And when we finish it, that usually means another team or another person needs to work on it. So they repeat the pattern the same way. So that leads to very, very long delivery times and disappointments. And leads to what we call expedites, because customers at some stage will get really unhappy about the late delivery and they start chasing it, which means we start servicing it. We deliver a higher class of service, another term that we haven't defined. So we divert capacity to fulfill that request, which means other people will suffer and then somebody else will complain. And so this vicious cycle will just carry on forever. People who've read Goal are familiar with this.
Right. And so how do we combat that?
Well, the way we combat that is we move from a push-based system to a pull-based system. So we limit the number of tokens available, if you like, slots where we can work. And we say, okay, we only work and wait until we are available to work on it. So just because somebody requests for it, we don't start it. We delay the start until we have availability. And the availability signal, if you like, it comes from downstream when we finish the work. Then that's a signal to say, okay, let's service the next item. And that's how, if you like, the difference between a push and a pull-based system is. So the pull-based system will only start work when there is availability to do it. And by default, it means we have capacity to do it. Mm-hmm. A pull-based system is also predictable because within the system boundary, we can get predictability on our delivery rates and lead times for completion. Whereas a push-based system is unpredictable because of the wait times and the expedites that come in. Some things will get done faster because somebody is shouting, and some things will take a long time. But overall, things will wait a lot longer.
Great. I think this also answers my other question, which is if we had two organizations side by side and we had to compare them, and the differences we know that they have is that one practices the pull principle on portfolio level, or in other words, they have much higher business agility, with another one who works in the traditional way with the push principle. What kind of differences we would see? So
yes, I think those are the key differences you'll see is predictability, because the organization that is working on pull-based system, they can have very high degree of predictability on how long it will take for a certain type of work to get done. Whether that's a project outcome, whatever it is, they can do that. The other thing that they will have is they will have better employee satisfaction because they're not overburdening them. The employees are not forced into cutting corners. They get higher pride of workmanship, and the quality goes up. And of course, the customer satisfaction, which is also related to that. If you meet expectations, usually customers are happy provided the product is what they wanted. But if the customer needs to wait and you're not reliable in the delivery, then it leads to less customer satisfaction.
Yep. Yeah, quite a direct connection there. Okay. And to summarize the conversation that we just had is, I would like to ask one final question, and that one is, what is the number one advice that you could give to a company who is striving for business agility and who would like to get started with it? What should they pay attention to?
The number one thing they should do and pay attention to, I would say, implement a pull-based system of work. And for that to happen means that they need to visualize the work, have a visual management system in place, visualize the work, and put a pull-based system in place. The higher up at the organization level you implement the pull-based system of work, the more the rewards you get at an organizational level.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you very much for helping us understand more about portfolio Kanban and pull on organizational level, and going from push to pull on such a high level. So thank you for your time and for the knowledge you've shared with us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
If you're watching us on YouTube, leave us a like.
Thanks for joining us, and see you here next time.